Now, in other news, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is blaming North Korea's rogue behavior for the stall in negotiations on dismantling the regime's nuclear weapons program. At the same time, Britain, France, and Germany have condemned the regime. They did so at the UN Security Council. This over the regime's recent missile launches. And this is the second time these three countries have done that in less than a month. Seung-jae with the details.
In a speech at the National Convention of the American Legion in Indianapolis on Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hit out at North Korea's rogue behavior amid stalled talks on dismantling the regime's nuclear weapons program. While Pompeo stressed that the U.S. has galvanized global support to denuclearize North Korea, he stopped short of mentioning the international sanctions that are on the regime. The talks have stalled since the two sides failed to agree to Washington's demands for complete denuclearization and Pyongyang's demands for sanctions relief during the second Trump-Kim summit in Hanoi earlier this year. Last week, North Korea's Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho slammed Pompeo, calling him the die-hard toxin of U.S. diplomacy, and adding the U.S. would be sadly mistaken if it planned to maintain sanctions on the North. Despite the verbal tit-for-tat, Washington has continued to express hope that Pyongyang will return to the negotiating table, in line with a June 30th agreement between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. In New York on Tuesday, Britain, France, and Germany condemned North Korea's recent missile launches in a statement issued after a closed-door session of the UN Security Council. The three countries were referring to the regime's 7 rounds of missile tests since late July. It's the second time the countries have condemned the North in less than a month. The statement urges Pyongyang to engage in meaningful negotiations with the U.S., adding that international sanctions must remain in place and be fully and strictly enforced until North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs are dismantled. The U.S. did not sign to either of the statements, possibly in a bid to avoid any action that could hurt efforts to resume denuclearization talks with the regime. Seung-jae, Arirang News.